Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Aqibatun lil mustaqim. Wa la rahwana ila ala dalimeen. Altay subhanahu wa ta'ala amtanani wa shukri. Wa Muhammadin huwa sayyidina makbubana. Inhu kana sayyidin mursaleen. Wa ikwanahu min NBA wa mursaleen ajma'in. Salawatu Allah Ta'ala wa salamuhu alayhim. My dear brothers and sisters, I will have a short one, I think, today on this particular. I'm trying to lead you up on the tafsir of Surah 48, which is Surah Fet in 12. I'm going to lead you up into a culmination of the other ones because we're dealing here with subhanahu wa ta'ala exposing the desert Arabs. And well, let me also give my felicitations properly in Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh lil ikwani wa akhwati wa salamu ala mani taba huda lil ikwani wa akhwati fi Africa wa Europa, America, Caribbean, or Asia, or Kuli Macan. So we will now begin to embark after this particular one into areas about historical things that happen. And why I'm going to lead you up to this, because this is related in a lot of ways to our plight that's inside the United States with the black man and his family. And so I'm going to lead you to a point, and I'm going to bring in some historical events that has transpired, because you should know this for your education as a Muslim, especially for the black man and his family there inside the United States and Europe and the Caribbean, or wherever he's at, because our history generally is very, very small. And so we want to educate, because we should educate our children, because our children in today's schools, according to many of the statistics, show that we are lacking in our history, even in American history. And many can't even find, the cities on a map inside the United States, let alone Africa and the Jazira Arab, which is the Middle East. They cannot find it. And then when they do, if you ask them where Ghana is, or Morocco, or Egypt, or even South Africa, they can't tell you. This is what's happening. So I'm going to give you something to enlighten you, because even my generation, we are ignorant of a lot of history. So I'm going to delve into a part, not today, only a little bit, but I'm going to delve into a part which we should know as Muslims, period, because you should understand what happened to the Khalifa when it began. Who was in the Khalifa and who was trying to take the Khalifa out. You need to know these things, because you should be well-rounded. Again, what's going to happen when you're back in the hood and you come to Islam, and some of the brothers come to you and they say, hey man, I need to ask you some questions about what happened in the early part of Islam. You won't be able to answer them. So they're going to say, well, what kind of Muslim are you? You can't answer a question. I ask you a question, what happened in the early part of Islam? You won't be able to even answer this. And we had this happen. I know this to be a fact. I know some brothers that talked to me about this in the past, where they did not have even the inkling of what was happening, what happened to the Muslims. The only thing they did, they came to Islam, they took the Shahadatain, they began to pray, they know about Ramadan, and so forth and so on. They began to learn certain things about voodoo. But then after that, they don't even understand who the Prophet ﷺ, or the Sirah, the story of the Prophet ﷺ. They don't even know. So here I'm going to do something that's different, because a lot of the tafsirs, you'll give the tafsir and then you move on. But again, you still leave the person back into the 7th century, and we are in the 8th century. We don't want to do that here, because we want modern times to educate our brothers and sisters and equate some things to their plight, especially like in the United States. So my focus is, yes, the talk about the history, but to give this education so you be well-rounded. and to as a Muslim, because you need this education to be, again, well-rounded. You're going to get asked, and what if those who are the younger, they're in college, and when you go to an Islamic class or you go to a history class and now a world history class, and you have a professor who's anti-Islamic, and he began to present facts that are not facts, they're lies, how are you going to combat it if you do not have this historical background? And it happens, brothers and sisters. I remember a sister, what she said, this is years back, when she went to one of these classes, she didn't know anything about the professor. But when the professor got to Africa and into the Jazira Arab and about Islam, she could not answer to respond to the lies that this professor was telling. And she said it was her fault. She felt like she was undressed because she did not understand her religion. The professor knew she was a Muslimah because she had hijab and everything else, but she had to remain quiet because she did not understand. She didn't understand the history behind Islam. She didn't even understand the African history. She couldn't even tell you about the empires, the Mali empires, or the Borno, or Usman bin Fodio and his sultanate. She couldn't explain any of that. So this is why I'm going to get into this. It may anger some people because they may not want to hear, because I know we have a problem when it gets down to Arabs. I understand that. And I talked about this in many classes, but you have to understand something too. They are an integral part of this, and so are you, because West Africa and Africa period plays a significant role in Islam. So you have to have this history in order for you to be well-rounded. So, okay, we'll get started here. Surah Fetah, which is the Surah 48 and verse 12 here, and I'll read this in the English language. Nay, ye thought that the messenger and the believers would never return to their families. This seemed pleasing in your hearts, and ye conceive an evil thought, for ye are a people lost in wickedness. Now, as you remember when I talked about the previous Haya, which was 11, I talked about how Subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed their plans, exposed what they really were. Remember, the prophet sent emissaries to, I think, about 6 of these. I gave you 6 of these Kabilas or clans, and asked them to join him on the Umrah. At this time, the pagan tribes were still at war with the Muslims, and the Muslims were not at full strength at this time either. So they weighed their options and they tried to fool the prophet. So they did not attempt to go on there because of they were worried more about their wealth, about their flocks and so forth. They thought they would not be able to come home, and they were afraid of Quraysh, the most powerful Arab tribe at that time, clan, and some of the others. So they played a game with the Prophet, which angered Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is how we got to number 12. Again, it was exposed, as Subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed to the Prophet what they really felt in their hearts. And again, I asked a question last week. You have believers. You have people who are said that they're Muslims, yet they hold certain hatreds and traditions against other Muslims and Muslims in general. And we asked the question, which kind of Muslims would be like this? We're not talking about a common situation where you have an argument between 2 Muslims who live in an area and one threw trash accidentally into the yard. We're not talking about that. Or we have a disagreement among the brothers about some issues of fiqh or about the Sharia. We're not talking about that either. We're talking about wholesale hate and dislike for Muslims in general, period. Irrespective of Sunnah, Nabi, alayhi salatu wasalam, or anything like this. They just have, a dislike for the Muslims. So here we have the desert Arab, the Arabi. And he, in this situation here, is exposed. Bottom line, exposed. And he got his plans treachery, because there will be some other chapters. We'll go into this And we as Muslims always have to be mindful of something. We do not want subhanahu wa ta'ala sanctions against us. The sanctions are harsh, and you have the punishments and you have sanctions. And the sanctions of Allah, in certain circumstances where subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, okay, I'm going to give you a punishment, but I'm going to give you a punishment in another way. Because you have been doing this, I'm not going to allow you to marry. You understand what I mean? This is what's going to happen. This is talking about sanction. This is a sanction. Punishment means harsh things, meaning illnesses, or you are all your wealth is taken from you, or he allows your enemies to come at you because of the perversities in your life. You see? So he says, okay, now I'm going to punish you because you have been playing around doing this, and you've been actually doing that. You've been involved in shirk, billah, ta'ala, and you also been involved in kufr. You see? So then there's a punishment. The sanctions here is because subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed him. The Prophet ﷺ understood that, but the Prophet ﷺ did not make takfir against them. This is something you also should know, because you see the evidence against them. What has happened here is subhanahu wa ta'ala has told the Prophet ﷺ and gave him basically instructions. He is to deal with them, but he cannot make takfir against them, because the takfir will be made in Yom Kiyamah by subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will declare them to be disbelievers. And you'll see in the other chapters, subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to use harsh language. But it's not that he made takfir against them, and the Prophet did not make takfir against them, because he dealt with them as other Muslims. He dealt with them harshly, but on the same token, he did not make takfir because he was ordered not to do it, because subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I'm going to do that in Yom Kiyamah against the desert Arab, or the Bedouin, or in Arabic, the Arabi. Okay, so that's another point you have to understand, because I know someone asked a question. So look, subhanahu wa ta'ala said this about them. Why he didn't make takfir and threw them out of Islam? See, he did not do it. And there's a reason for that. And I'll get back into that later as well. So the Bedouins who are Mukhalifina, remember we used the word last week. There's two. There's Mukhalifina, who are laggers behind, who are people. And I give you an example of this, and among the black folk in America. How about the Uncle Toms? Okay, the house Negro types, the traitors against the race, who side with the racists against their brothers in America. This is who these people are. And we as black folk inside the United States have a hard time dealing with these people, because why? They have black faces. They came on the same slave ships. So we have a problem, and we have to be careful on how we deal with them, because we understand some things, but other things we don't understand why they did what they did. This is the same thing here because all of this, you're talking about Jazir Arab, these are Arabs, but they're hanging deep into the desert. Okay, I mean the harsh desert. They're out there in the open, and as you heard me talk about, they developed a lot of different things about them that made them so far different. It's the same thing as we have inside the United States. We have the genre of the gangsters. We have the Uncle Toms, the house Negroes. We have these other traitor types. So we have these who are Mukhalifina. Okay, they're lagger behinds, or the Mukhalifina, meaning the Mukhalifina, the violators of our race, the people who go against us. This is how the desert Arabs, some of them are. So this is how we can equate this, so you can get an understanding what has happened here in this situation with the Arabs, because they're all Arabs, just like the United States. They're African Americans, or Africans born in America, but they hold to certain traditions and so forth and so on that is contrary to the prosperity of the black man and his family inside the United States. This is what is happening here. And I will show you later on, inshallah, their scheme, which is very ingenious, but subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed it. So you see here that they were delighted that they said, okay, we fooled the Prophet. The Prophet ﷺ, and the companions and the Muslims. We're going to stay back. We won't join them, and we'll let them to go on to Umrah, back to Mecca. And we figured that the pagan Arab tribes, clans will get rid of the Muslims. Again, you have to ask, what Muslim thinks ill like this of another Muslim, and the Ummah, and the wish that it was destroyed? This is what these guys were actually thinking. So, and you thought you had done, use your treachery and wisdom, and you also did not feel any compulsion in rejoicing at the thought that the messenger and the believers would return alive. They thought they were going to be murdered, period. They thought that they were going to be killed off, and that was it. And they said, okay, we don't go, we're going to save our money, we're going to save our clan, we're going to save our livestock and our way of life. And you remember their way of life, brothers and sisters. If you understand the Arabi that's in the Sahara, the desert Arab in the desert, what I said in Arabic, you have to understand their way of life, as you heard me say, is totally different than those who live in the Medina, and so forth. They're totally different. Laws, customs, even language capabilities. They speak Arabic, yes, but it's not. Some of them speak, again, that's why the Prophet sent some of the companions to learn from the better of the Bedouins who were Muslims, and they practiced Muslims, and and the Prophet sent them there to learn the Quranic Arabic better, to speak it better. Because in the desert, you remember something, those black Bedouin that's there spoke a more pure form, and they've been speaking this pure form Arabic for thousands of years. You understand? So that's why the Prophet sent many of the companions to them to learn it. And this is what he did. That's why I said this whole thing is fascinating. It's very fascinating when you understand the history behind that. And you should understand that as a Muslim. And the believers would not return alive, as I said, from the expedition. They were hoping that. They felt this was going to be. And that, but were pleased to think that they put themselves in danger. They were pleased. They said, okay, you know what? We saved our Kabyle. We saved our people. We saved our young men and so forth to go to battle. But that's not what's going to happen, because they were going to go there and to Umrah, not to fight. But they assumed that the Quraysh and the other, the Confederation, Exab in Arabic, the Federation would destroy them. And so this is where they made their error. Now, we'll get into some things here in Arabic here, where this is again for our brothers and sisters who speak Arabic, so they can kind of understand what's happening here and what we're talking about, and what they, how these people were and what happened to them. And in English, they were exposed offenders of the Arabs. They were exposed, as I said, Subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed them. And that's no different, brothers. We're back in the hood. We found out Jimmy, Robert, Larry, and some of the brothers, okay, we thought were okay. They were down with the hood. Now we found out they're working with the police. You see what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. This is the same situation here. We found out the brothers were aiding the enemies against the hood. You see, this is the same thing what has happened in this case with the Muslims. They're brother Arabs, yes, even though they're from the Sahara, the desert, but they were untrustworthy, and they were hypocrites, and they were not aiding their brothers. This is how it was back in hood. You got the brothers who you found out were doing this against the brothers. This is what we're talking about here. They're exposed offenders, and they realized they got exposed because when the Prophet came, and remember last week I talked about the conversation he had with them, he exposed them on why he would not make a dua, because they asked them to make a dua for them. And then the beautiful and clever words from our Prophet ﷺ to them give the indication he exposed what they were. And it was beautiful how he exposed it. And if you review the khutbah I gave last week on this, it would explain that. I won't get into that because it's pretty lengthy. So this is what we're talking about here. And here. And the other part here for our brothers who are not quite up to speed in English. Here, again, we're talking about a situation where their thoughts, they have bad thoughts, okay, against Subhanahu wa ta'ala and against our Prophet and the Muslims in general. And here, the translation, he thought that the messenger and those with him among the believers were going to their death. That's, brothers and sisters, it's like back in the hood again. You got the brothers and they're getting ready to go to fight to get some other brothers from another hood, because they've been coming into the hood, they've been doing things, they've been messing around with the sisters and so forth and so on. Maybe they got rough with some of the sisters in the hood, so now you're going to go to deal with them, and perhaps you're going to go to deal with them at some other park. And so here's Jimmy, Larry, Robert, and the brothers like this, okay? And it's time to go and deal with them. Suddenly, Robert, okay, and Jimmy and Larry decide, hey, man, I'm sick. Hey, I got the flu now. I can't go with you. Jimmy says, hey, man, my foot. I hurt my foot the other day at work, and so forth and so on. And I can't. And plus, my wife is angry with me. And she left. I got to take care of the kids. Each one gave me an excuse because they were what? They were hypocrites. They did not want to go to save the hood, because in their mind they say, you know what? If we go fight with these guys, we're going to lose, and I'm going to lose what I got. This is the same correlation, brothers, what happened with the Muslims, with the desert Arabs and the Muslims, and what happened. This is the same correlation. And now you have to deal with these Uncle Toms who felt this way and who thought this way. Same thing in the hood. Now you have to figure out how you're going to deal with Jimmy, Robert, and Larry, and others who were Mukhalifina, who lagged behind. They didn't want to go protect the hood. They had bad thoughts about the hood. They want to leave the hood. So they decided they're going to either work against the hood, or they're going to just to abstain and demur and say, okay, I'm going to stay out. I'll lie. When Yahya and the brothers come to talk to me to get me to go, I'll tell them a lie. I'm sick, whatever. This is the same situation, the same correlation. Now, I'm going to talk about a word here. You remember the last word in the on this particular verse 12. Boring. This is something that, again, the brothers and sisters who are truly wanting to be stronger in the deen and also in the Arabic, as you start to learn the Arabic, and you should adopt the names that Subhanahu wa ta'ala has given people. He's giving people names. He's given the ones he loved names, okay? Like the Sadiqeen, see? The Muqsinin, you see? These names like this. He talks about these people who he liked. Then the ones he doesn't like, okay? The Munafiqeen, the hypocrites. The Fasiqeen, the people who are perverse, and so forth and so on. The Dalimin, the people who are mean and who are unjust in their attitudes. He's given many names, and there's many names inside the Quran. Subhanahu wa ta'ala has given certain people. You should learn those names and use those names, because those names give you direction on what is what. And don't just give one. You can't call everybody Munafiqeen, because it's not the case. You can't do that. You can't use that to classify all the wrongdoers. You cannot. So here, this word here is very interesting, because these people are beyond hypocrites. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala has said about them is that these people, this word borhan, kalimat borhan, okay, boran. And here, Subhanahu wa ta'ala has said this person is a simple, perverted person. They're beyond the hypocrites, because the hypocrites will do things that are good, but then they also in the darkness do things bad is contrary to that, or they will do certain things against the religion. in the privacy or when they're not around other Muslims. Here, these people are sinful and perverse persons who are incapable of doing good. He or she is following a path of destruction. Let me give you an example of these people. Say you have, like I give you, like in the hood, the pimp. The pimp, okay, the pimp, the qawad in Arabic, the pimp. This person is this. He's a sinful and perverted person. He goes and he corrals women and he have them to give their bodies for money. We know what the pimp is, okay? We know the pimp, the Mac inside the hood. We know what they are. These people, subhanahu wa ta'ala regards them as sinful and perverted persons. He don't call them hypocrites, munafiq. He don't call them that. He calls them perverted persons who are capable of doing good. Now, brothers in the hood who are gangsters fit this, because why? Majority of their day is spent what? Because they have bad intentions. They have what? Bad actions, because they go around this day looking about to protect something that they should not be protected, because it doesn't need to be protected, and they go to fight and kill other black folk. They are incapable of doing good at this time, because subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a block on their heart, and and the devil has entered it. That's why they make evil deeds. They go and waylay another brother, and they shoot, and they kill another brother because he's got a different color shirt on and he's from another place. You see, this is the people. You use this word in Arabic to describe them. He or she is following a path of destruction. The gangster follows a path of destruction. It's an evil path. It's going to lead them to the fire. And you know that because since they live in bad intentions, they live with their bad actions because the intentions of their heart are bad, so their actions are bad. They have bad thoughts, so their actions are bad. Their intentions are bad. See? And they're following a path of destruction. But also, path of destruction is for the pimp, the Mac. He is also in this type of arena as well, because he is a person who is perverse and simple person, and it's a path to destruction, because many times the Mac gets blown over, gets blown away. He go and steal another woman from another harem of another brother, another pimp, or Coad as we call it in Arabic, and he then goes and kills the brother, or he gets him in an ambush. It's a path of destruction which leads you to the hellfire. And then the last one is the woman, okay, in this situation here, the woman who has left her house, her husband and children, and go out to fornicate with many men. This is a path of destruction for this person. She is very simple and a perverted person because she has the house, she has a husband, she has her children, and yet she's went away from the Sharia and she goes out to go play around with men she should not play around with. And also him, this guy here, who is the fornicator, he also is a sinful and perverted person. Now, we're not talking about the person who went on a seminar. He's a rifle brother, he's a rifle sister, and they made a mistake. They got into a close relationship. They might not have done things sexually, but they might have kissed and held hands, or they might have spent a lot of time together when they should not have spent time. This person doesn't fit this. He's not a boron. He's not that. He's a simple person. These people were simple and perverted person because the recidivism, they keep doing this over and over again. Their thoughts are always bad. The good, strong Muslimah, the woman, and the Muslim, the man, they are generally good. They have their, they do their thing, but they were weak. This time when they went to this seminar, she saw a handsome brother. He saw a beautiful girl, and things happen. We are human beings. We make mistakes. And he got caught up in something. He is not that. He's not a bordering. He's not that. He's not, and she's not either. But those who continuously to do the things we talked about, they're that, the gangsters and so forth. So I hope you get the understanding about this, because these are words you should understand in the Arabic language, because it'll help you make the distinction too in your life. When you'll know who the hypocrite, you know who to call hypocrite. You know who to call fasik. Fasik is also the people say he don't pray. You don't call him a munafiq, and you do in some ways, but since you know he's perverse, meaning that he does not want to pray, you call him fasiq. You see what I mean? So there's a distinction. But also the fasiq also means a corrupted person who also is a fornicator, could be called that as well. So you should understand the Quranic Arabic and the names that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala uses to describe the people is important for your education and also to enhance your Arabic. Because when you begin to read and you start to see things, you begin to do research and you'll see what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said in his beautiful, fabulous book. And he talks in there and he uses names. You have to understand that. Understand those names and use those names. And it's proper. Because when somebody call you on it, when you say, hey, look, you go do the research. This is why I said this about you. Okay, why I called you this. And when they do their research, then they understand. And so this is what how you should try to understand this. Now, I'm going to get to the last of this and then we'll close here. I want something to get you to understand something because I'm going to lead you to other cutballs I have here. And here we're going to mention something because I want you to understand something. Why? I'm going to give you a relationship to the black man and his family inside the United States. The Desert Arabs mentioned here in the fabulous Quran Kareem as hypocrites, as liars and untrustworthy. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'll give you some other things too about this, but that's for another day, inshallah ta'ala, bi'ithnillah. And the same ones who, they are the same ones. And I didn't write it right. You know, sometimes writing from English to Arabic, I make mistakes. Or from Arabic to English, I make the mistakes. I should say the translations. They are the same ones who built the Islamic State. You got to remember that. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is not talking about all of the Arabs because how can that be? Our Prophet ﷺ is what? Arab. He's Arabi. You see? So all of those people in this peninsula are Arabs. So we're talking about a specific class of people that Subhanahu wa ta'ala is exposed. Like we exposed Jimmy and Larry and them back in the hood who don't want to go down and deal with the brothers who have came into the hood. See? So we have a situation, again, like this. We have Arabs. They're Arabs, period. The same ones that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is talking about who have been defectors and violators against their brothers are the same ones who built the first Islamic State. So don't get that confused. Don't put, because this is what they do to us. And that's why I'm saying we have a correlation here. What happens? When they talk about black folk, they always look at the worst of us and they use the worst of us as the example. They don't talk about the best of us. See? You see what I mean? And this is what the racists do against us by pointing out the mukhalifina among us, the gangsters and so forth. And they use that as to say, this is why we have to have laws tough against the black man inside the United States, against the African American, because they equate all of us with gangsters. See? So we as black folk, as being universal as we are, we should not do that with our brothers, the Afro Arabs. We should not do that. We should understand that just like the Afro Arabs, they have their distractors as well, who are criminals, who are mukhalifina and so forth. They are, they don't want to go back to Ummah, or they don't want to. They don't think of themselves as Arab. They think of themselves as Frenchmen, or they think of themselves as British. This is what I'm talking about. So we can't go, and this is the problem we have today, my brothers and sisters, because we look at excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to turn my phone off here, because they're looking at, it's getting close to prayer. Yeah, we're looking at a situation where we have a lot of racism, and I bring this up in this fact because I want to, it's understood among the black man. I don't want him to say, you see, now even Subhanahu wa Ta'ala doesn't like the Arabs. Don't think like that. That's not true, because our prophet is Arab. The companions were Arab. Even Bilal, who was quote unquote Habashi, but he's classified under the definition as Arab because he spoke the Arabic language, you see? So we have to always be careful, brothers and sisters, when we read this. We can't use the, hey man, oh, I now found something. I heard Sheikh Yahya, what he said on the thing here the other day. He was talking about the Arabs. Now I understand why I hate the guys at the liquor store. No, brothers. They are Mukhalifina. That's where you have to look at them. They are over here. Don't let those who are wrong and bad and to make you perverse against all of the Afro Arabs. It's wrong. This is why I'm bringing this up as an education for you to understand how subhanahu wa ta'ala is done. We have Mukhalifina among the African Americans as well. They use that against us. When you want to go do something, they go and say, look, hey man, I just saw the brothers out of Compton, what they did. I have nothing to do with that. I'm an old man now, but they still use that against me. So I want to do this. They say, hey man, you know, I got to watch you because I seen what these black guys did on the street there in Long Beach. Or I saw what they did in the hood in Baltimore. You see? And they use that against all black people. We have to be very careful of that. And here, I want to understood the same Arabi that we're talking about now built the Khalifa. It's them that built the Khalifa. So remember that, brothers and sisters, because they did build the Khalifa. We have to understand that. And they helped to remove both the Romans and the Persians in bloody wars. And the Arabian Peninsula, I have it in Arabic here for those who speak Arabic language and those who are learning the Arabic language, the Jazira Arab, and so forth. The same ones subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about here, the best of us, the best of them, okay, fought for the Muslims, died as Muslims to preserve the Islamic State. They did this. They did this, brothers. They preserved the Islamic State. They fought against the distractors. So we have the Desert Arab who are down with the Muslims. They are Muslim. They bleed as Muslims. Their life as Muslims. Then you have the Mukhalifina, who are the hypocrites, who are Boran, you know, who are perverse people, and so forth. You had those distractors. Okay, same with our brothers. We have good and down the earth African Americans, but then we have the other ones over here, the gangsters, the hardened criminals, and so on and so on. The same thing with our brothers. They have the same situation like we have inside. This is way back 1400 years ago. You see the correlation. So we don't want even our Afro Arabs brothers, they use the hood as example to discriminate against all African Americans. We as African Americans, as black folk inside the United States, we don't want to reciprocate that. We don't want to say all Arabs are certain things, all Afro Arabs are this way. We cannot, even though they do that to us, many of them. And we know that the Tubab does that. They use what's happening in the hood and the gangsters and other criminals to discriminate against all black folk, regardless if they're my age or if they're youngsters, you see? So I'm giving this lesson as word wisdom to help you to discern, because here, subhanahu wa ta'ala has exposed the hypocrites, the Boran, all these, the Fasikun, the Dalimun, all this among the daughter of the Arabi, the Bedouin. But as you will see, this is a precursor, brothers and sisters, to what's going to happen. And what's going to happen here in the near future with early Islam was bloody, okay, bloody. And it was something, and you should learn that history because it does affect you in itself, because the Afro Arabs are what? Afro Arabs. And many of them look just like me, as you saw the pictures that I showed you in previous classes. Many of them are no different than African Americans. They look the same as African Americans, but they're classified as Arabi. They're Afro Arabs, you see? So, and one more thing on this, and I'm going to get ready to close. And I'm going to show you some things about the clans. I'll show you so you can get a backdrop about the Jazira Arab. There was a program, I think almost about 3 months ago, where, I'm not going to mention the name. This sister got on talking about the same issue what we're talking about now. And a lot of people caught up into that, and she made some references. Again, she put out certain Arabs, Afro Arabs who were involved in the slave trade, and made it as to appear as though all the Arabs, Afro Arabs, are doing this. And we have our brothers and sisters caught up in it, and they believed it, and he ran with it. We are better than that. We are more universal than anybody else. We should not get caught up in things like that because it's wrong. We don't want anybody coming after the black man, which they do, and say, hey, they go after the brothers in the hood and use that as a blanket case to go against all African Americans. This is what this sister was doing. She's black. And she was saying, hey, look here. You see the Arabs? This is how they are. A small segment were that way involved in this, okay? Of the Afro Arabs. And yet she's trying to make it that all of them, so that way you would hate all of them. You see what I mean? We are bigger than that. We are better than that. We should not. And you as Muslims, especially in particular, you should not be this way. So I'm giving you this to help you to discern, brothers and sisters. And like I say, many people don't like, basically how I present the case. I'm only going to give you the truth. And I'm going to talk to you if against the brothers in the hood, I will talk. If it's for the brothers in the hood, I will talk. If it's for the Afro Arabs, I will talk. If it's against the Afro Arabs, I will say, I will talk. I will give you the truth, what I understand it to be, and I'll give you wisdom behind it. And when it gets to the Quran, I will bring out the case as Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has brought out, as our Prophet has brought out, and our Sahaba, and our favorite generation, and what our scholars of the past, because I'm Muslim. And I have to bring this out to you, even if it's against myself. You know that. And the Quran, the Kareem, I will say what it says. Inani, remember, akulu mayukul. I always say that because I will say what the Quran have to say. So maybe some people may not like this. I understand. No problem. No harm to you, brother and sister. It's no problem. But those who like and who respect it and say, okay, and they listen to it and learn from it, jazakallah khairan. That's how I look at that. And I'll say it that way. So my brothers and sisters, I will now get into a historical thing next time when we meet, inshallah ta'ala, bi'ithnillah, and we'll talk about some issues that we should talk about. And I will leave you with some things too here. I want to show you something here. Here is the Jazira Arab. I know this is in Arabic, but I want to push my brothers and sisters inside the United States, in particular, to start to learn the Arabic language. These are the Kabilas, many of the major Kabilas inside Jazira Arab. You see like Saudi Arabia here, you have the Oman area here, and you have Yemen down here. These are some of the names of the Kabilas. And then, where's the other ones at? Boy, now that's very interesting. That's very interesting here. Yeah, okay. I don't know where the other one went to here. I'm trying to. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Now, this is something here showing what happened when they fought the Romans and so forth and so on. But this is not the one I wanted. But that's okay. But you get the idea. I don't know where the other one went to because I still make mistakes in my SteamYard. So anyway, brothers and sisters, I wanted to give you this little lesson today, and I'm hoping that you did get something out of this. And again, brothers and sisters, if you like, please subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. This is, it warms my heart that you like the content. But those who are distractors, I understand. I'm not against you as well, because I'm going to present the case the best way I understand it. I'm not here to please anybody. I'm only here to please Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and present the case of the Muslims and present it as in the best way I possibly can. And it's going to upset some will like it, and so forth and so on. I understand, and it's no fault to anybody, and so forth and so on. So with that said, brothers and sisters, until the next time, and I greet you with the beautiful words of Jannah. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.